missed a month or so, maybe it's December and people cannot meet, something like that. But for 63 months, you can calculate that in terms of years, and you'll know where we are. This special edition of the State of the Nation is discussing the period beyond 2016, stabilizing post-election governance in Uganda. The tension is palpable. From some people I hear talk about what's going on. Both sides are asking, what did we do after the election and how do we move on? There's a priest who said, we are one Uganda, one people, going forward instead of progress, with steady progress or something like that. I think that's where the crux of the discussion is. Let me welcome all of you, and without much ado, invite Dr. Arthur Bainomja, Executive Director of the Advocates Coalition on Environment and Development, to come and give us very, very brief remarks. We'll be very strict with the time allocation so that we can be able to have both of us here contribute and the rest of us. May I make an announcement? Please, if you're having your breakfast, try to move closer to these other, try to move in and settle so that when we start and we're running with all of us together. Dr. Bainomja.
Thank you, Charles. Ambassador Bethel Kipragat, Justice Ogora, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I hope the spirits will go up, but I take this opportunity to warmly welcome you to the 63rd session of the State of the Nation platform, which this time is organized in partnership with the National NGO Forum, and I can see the Executive Director NGO Forum is here, Mr. Richard Sewachiriang, and Uganda Youth Network. Thank you for organizing this with us. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, I should say that we dedicated this session to promoting peace in Uganda after elections that left Ugandan society very polarized. And so the main objective of this session is to try to heal and cool down and bring the people together and focus on the country and build it into the future that is predictable and focused. And also the ground rules for the session for Stone apply. The ground rules are that one, Acode is a non-partisan think tank. So we convene very divergent people to discuss under one roof. So we frankly discuss, we honestly discuss, and integrity is also espoused. We don't attack each other here. We attack issues that move this country and move this region forward. And I want to leave you with a quotation by Desmond Tutu. And I think most of you know Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And he said, and I quote, "I told those dedicated workers for peace and reconciliation that they should not be tempted to give up on their crucial work because of frustrations and seemingly not making any progress. That in our experience, and that is South Africa, nothing was wasted, for when time was right, it would all come together. And looking back, South Africa, people would realize that what a critical contribution they had made. They were part of the cosmic movement towards unity, towards reconciliation that had existed from the beginning of time." That was Archbishop Desmond Tutu addressing an audience in Northern Ireland, of course, building peace in that country. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the gist of the matter. I hope that we will not be frustrated by what we have gone through, but look forward with hope. And we have invited eminent people, and I'm glad the Honorable has just arrived. Honorable Tassis Kabwejere, representing the Prime Minister of Uganda. Please receive him. Welcome, the Prime Minister. Welcome. We have in our midst to give a keynote address, Ambassador Bethel Kipragat, one of the seasoned peacemakers on the continent, but also an elder statesman who has participated in several peace processes that have delivered peace in this country. He will be speaking through his own mouth, but briefly, he has facilitated the peace process in South Sudan, of course, that delivered the country that is there now, of course, with challenges. He has participated in the Mozambique peace process, in the Uganda peace process. As a matter of fact, he was very key in the Uganda, in the peace talks, in the Nairobi peace talks in 1985 between Ugandan groups, and currently is heavily involved in Somalia and Burundi. So can we welcome Ambassador Biswele Kipiregat? So he'll be speaking to us. Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting our time, I hand over back to our Charles. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Dr. Bainamisha, and welcome, Prime Minister, the representative of the Prime Minister, Professor Tarsis Kabwejere. Welcome, Ambassador Kiplagat. Welcome, Justice James Ogola, and welcome to all of us. Can I invite Mr. Richard Sewakirianga to briefly make remarks in 3 minutes?
The representative of the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Professor Kabwejere, Justice Ogola, and Ambassador Kiplagat, and all colleagues and protocol observed, thank you very much for coming to Stone. First is to say for us, we are glad to be associated with this event. Glad because it is an event that is helping us to think about Uganda in a different way. February 18th started us on a new journey of getting new leaders across the country. And through that process, we did many things, including voting. And now many things are happening, including going to court. And so, with all that, we, I think, have the very important function of asking ourselves, what are elections for? Why do we go for elections? And indeed, if we go for elections, what is it that we would like to get out of elections? Are elections a function that comes out of liberal democracy and does deliver the outcomes that citizens want? Or have they become an interruption to our own living as a society? So I think this time will give us the chance to process some of those ideas a bit more intentionally. I would like to just leave one idea, which I think is important, that for us in civil society, we think that one of the things that needs to be done is for this country to start thinking through a process that allows for some kind of elite consensus. An elite consensus that is based not on a polarized understanding of where Uganda is and Uganda should be, but an elite consensus that is based on a compromise that helps us not to use elections for selfish reasons, but to use elections for national reasons. So I guess that as we go along, it will be something that we would like to pursue in different ways. You've seen that many groups have, said many things in terms of the statements that we issued after these elections. But the spirit of the discussion now is that I think, and all of you will agree that everybody in this room is an elite. Is unless this elite here stop being polarized and look for a consensus, just as the South Africans looked for a consensus and the blacks and whites were able to meet, or just as the people in Chile looked for a consensus when Pinochet had created a polarized state. I think all those are some of the ideas that we would like to bring to the table. And that may actually mean that probably we should be thinking about having a national dialogue that helps us to actually build this consensus across the different shades of political thinking in this country. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to leave it there, and thank you very much for coming. And as I said, we are honored to be associated with this stone. Thank you.
Let me just remind us that the State of the Nation discussion platform provides space for robust debate. And we have people from different shades of political opinion. We share those opinions without fear or favor, provided we respect one another. We do not descend into personal attacks. And like Dr. Bainamisha said earlier, Stone is providing that platform, and now with the support of Uyonet, Acode, and the Uganda National NGO Forum, to be able to debate and see where the country moves on key policy issues. Okay. We have a live audience, like I said, on NTV, so we thank you for that support, NTV. And of course, we should have had a discussion, brief remarks from Lillian Bagala, the Executive Director of the Uganda Youth Network, the youth providing that key component of the population we're discussing for this morning and in the future. I would like to recognize just a few people. If I miss your name, please don't take it personal. But I have seen the Deputy Secretary General of the National Resistance Movement, Richard Todwong. He's been in the trenches for a while. When I spoke to someone in the Secretariat before, they said our New Year hasn't come until 18th. Now it seems like it's being postponed again, but I don't know who's postponing it. Maybe we'll wait and see. Hassan Kasinje is an Assistant Inspector General of Police. He's in charge of the International Police. You're most welcome, sir. And seated next is the Honorable Maria Koburunga Matembe. She's been out of Parliament for the last about 15 years or more. 10 years. But when she goes to Parliament, most people think she's still a member of Parliament. That's how powerful she was. So, you're most welcome. And let me now formally introduce Ambassador Bethwell Kiplagat, who is our keynote presenter this morning. You'll have 15 minutes, sir, to make your keynote presentation. And after that, we'll have a panel discussion that will have a presentation from the Justice James Ogola. Some people have been calling him the debate is the thing. He put that famous debate together, and then we will have, I've been corrected that before Ambassador Kiplagat gives us his keynote, we'll need to have this formally opened, and Professor Tarsis Kabwejere will give us very brief remarks. Then we'll have the keynote presentation from Ambassador Kiplagat, and after that we'll have the panel discussion. I am looking around to see whether we have the chairman of the Electoral Commission in the audience. I don't think I have seen him, though I see him on the program. So may I invite the Prime Minister to come and speak to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Did you say you were live on radio or no? Yeah, so don't make a mistake and call me Prime Minister, because there are many Ugandans who may mistake me for the Prime Minister. My apologies. It took me an hour and a half to get here from Karanavidi. And it's very clear that the jam, most of it is in our heads. It's not on the road. The way we use the road, it certainly needs to be improved. And it is appropriate to study behavior, and I'm here interested in this theme we have, stability after elections. Because that is behavior. How would we behave after elections? I recognize all of us present, and I recognize the importance of this gathering. And indeed, the very moment where we are in the history of Uganda. We have had in the history of Uganda, since Uganda was created as a state, the following elections: 1961, 1962, 1980, those were multi-party elections. The next multi-party elections we have had 2006, 2011, 2016. 6 multi-party elections. Since the whole concept of democracy was introduced by the Greeks. So what experience do we have in democratic governance? How much density, demographic density is in our mind. How much tradition do we have of democracy in Uganda? When I talked to Dr. Binumugisha, I was refreshed because the name itself is very refreshing when you know where he comes from. They have luck. And I think we have luck in this country. That's why we can have some of these exchanges. And I think for me, I will tell you very frankly, I am more hopeful than many people. I see we have gone quite a long way in making progress. 30 years before 1870, how was Uganda? Because Uganda was created in 1900 by the 1900 agreement. 1930, how did Uganda look like? Divide that period into 30-year periods. 1960, and so on until today. And you will see that probably the last 30 years have demonstrated a lot more seriousness about building a country and building a state. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought I would mention this. I have a book here called The Politics of State Formation and Destruction, written by Kabwejere. We created a state. The British did it from 1900. We reached a point where we destroyed it, and we tried to rebuild it. I did another book, The People's Choice, People's Power. That's what we are talking about. Are we creating conditions for people's power, for people's choice? How do we create it? How do we create those conditions? I'm one of those who believe that in the last 30 years, you don't have to agree with the Kabwejere, but in the last 30 years, I think compared with the previous 30 years and so on, there has been a contribution which you can't ignore. Hence, my appreciation of the last elections. The last elections, to me, demonstrated the largest exercise of debate, including the debate of presidential candidates. One not attended by all, the last one attended by all. And evaluations have been made and so on. When you read de Tocqueville's book on American democracy, I think it was written in 1858, he was talking about civil society. What is the history of civil society in Uganda? How old is Acode? Who is the grandfather of Acode and the great-grandfather of Acode? So we are all entering territories of exploration. And I'm glad that we can now proudly say, we are here, civil society. We are here. If you read the Tocqueville's book, civil society is organization founded by individuals on their own, in their own interest. But by their very functioning, these associations impinge on government. They are not created specifically to deal with the government. Many of our associations, many of our civil societies in Uganda are started primarily to make an impact on the government. And many of them have also a lot to learn on how to organize themselves. I came here to represent the president, the prime minister, and that's why I was delayed, because if it was him coming, he would have been here earlier. But what do we see, ladies and gentlemen? Stabilizing post-election governance in Uganda and beyond. What is involved in stability? A jam on Kampala roads is an element of either stability or instability. Many people tend to think that stability is political. No. In fact, any serious-minded person would know that stability is more economic than political. Hungry people are difficult to manage. Ignorant people are difficult to lead. Ignorance is one of our greatest problems in these countries of ours. Do we know what is good? Do we know what is not? Do we know how to accept defeat? Do we know how to accept success? Who teaches us to be tolerant? Who is the teacher? In today's Uganda, there are people who claim that we should be audited. What we do, we should be audited. Even when you have an auditor general, he should be audited by some person from another universe. There is still room for us to think that we have our own destiny, and this destiny must be handled by ourselves. So how do we handle elections? How do we accept defeat? Do we understand what multi-party means? If you can't field the candidates in the constituencies to give you a majority in parliament, how do you expect to run a democracy which is dependent on numeracy? If you earn in your effort as a party 30, 40, 50, or even less, out of 400 something members of parliament, how do you steer a country as a democratic leader? Does that sound sensible to ask? If you get 132,000 votes, even if you are cheated to that extent, you should accept a cob gets eaten by a lion. And the time when the cob eats the lion is good to come. It needs a lot of transformation. I have participated in elections and I have lost, and no dog has grown horns. And I have not jumped into a lake or hanged myself on a tree. Accepting where your mistakes are and your weaknesses is a sign of maturity. If you don't realize you are weak, you don't justify yourself being a leader. Leadership, those who have studied leadership, who have studied power, in heaven, God is believed to be the most forgiving. From what we have learned, God has never forgiven Lucifer. He sent him to hell into perpetuity. Among the disciples, Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus. And the pictures we tend to have now painted, he was seated on the same table when he was selling him out. So human history is full of that. And I would want us, as we look at stability, look at how our stable knowledge is. Do we have a stable knowledge of how to build a country? Do we have a stable knowledge of how to run a democracy? Democracy is numbers. If you don't have them, please build numbers. And numbers are built by in society. If you are cheated, as many times as some people have been cheated, please accept that being cheated is a possibility and live with it. I thank you.
I think we're beginning the discussion. I think we're beginning the discussion. Professor Kabwejere is being very candid in some of his remarks. But Professor, thank you for introducing to us those two books written by an author called Tarsis Bazana Kabwejere. There's another book called Team of Rivals. I've had it recommended several times on how President Abraham Lincoln was able to work with the people he'd contested with among the Whigs in a very volatile political time in the United States. And maybe that might help us to manage those who have been cheated and those who have lost by those who have won. Let me invite Professor Ambassador Bethwell Kiplagat to come and give us his keynote presentation. Ambassador, you have 15 minutes to make the presentation, and then we'll go into a discussion on that presentation as Stone members. You're most welcome. I have been asked to remind us here that we have an audience out there, so if you're moving in front of the cameras, kindly minimize movement because you're disrupting the images that are going out to the external audience that we don't have in here. Ambassador, you're most welcome.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I bring you greetings from your good neighbors, and that is from Kenya. Every time I come to Kampala, I have very nostalgic feelings because I arrived here in 1957 in July to go to Makerere University. And I had 5 wonderful years. And I'm just going to ask the representative of the Prime Minister, maybe I should get my passport also, citizenship of Uganda, having lived here for 5 years. My next important event was in January 24th, 1986. I had come here bringing a message from the present president who are in the bush in Kasese. And I had been there, met with them, the team. The talks had been going on in Nairobi. And so I came with that message, and I wouldn't tell you what the message was, because these are confidential and secret, and it will be only revealed in 100 years. But anyway, I came to bring that message to the president then, Okello, and I handed over the message in the evening. He wasn't very happy because he knew I had gone to the bush. Why did I go? Where is the gate of Uganda, he asked me. The gate is in the east and not on the west. But I assured him, I was here, I was there for a good mission. So I handed over the message and went to my hotel the next day, midday, still talking to people. My team came rushing from the embassy and told me to check out. I say, why should I check out? Say, get out of this hotel. The rebels are on the border of Kampala. And indeed, within 2-3 hours, there were some guns. By evening, the government had collapsed. The next morning, there was no government in Uganda. Nobody knew where I was. I had to spend a night in a safe home. And then transport was organized for me from here to Entebbe, and it took us 3 hours. There were roadblocks. We arrived at Entebbe airport, being guarded, and they were shooting around. And a special plane came to take me back to Kenya. It was a terrible time for Uganda. Immediately after, the new government was established. So I can say I have some interest in this country, personal investment. And so I am coming here to share with you, and I hope together we can get dividends from those efforts that were made. But let me say this. Very often I've been involved in this continent, as you have been told, Mozambique, Somalia, everywhere. And there are those who look at Africa, look at Uganda, look at Kenya, and say, where are these people going? What's happening to them? This continent, at least a few years ago, things are changing slightly. This continent is not moving anywhere. May I assure you of one thing? From my look at history, I know Africa has been on the move in the right direction. And let me start. August 1944. Few Africans, maybe 6 or 7 of them, with others from diaspora, met in Manchester. That's always, I think, is so important for us to remember the 6th Pan-African Conference. And that team sat down. At the end of that meeting, they decided, and I'm just summarizing the following. 1, that they will liberate the whole continent of Africa, which at that time, there was only one country that was independent, and that was Ethiopia. The rest was under colonial powers. 2, they said, we shall unite Africa. 3, we are going to dismantle any racist regime and practices and structures in this continent. 4, we are going to develop Africa. So I look at that span from 1944 up to today. Where are we? 1, by 1960, the majority of African countries had obtained their independence. It is their mistake if it didn't work out well, if they are allowed neo-colonialism to take place. But at least there were, majority were. By 1994, when South Africa became independent, we could write tick and say their first objective had been achieved. The whole continent of Africa is free apart from 1 or 2 islands. You should clap. And by the way, you did it. The struggle was by ourselves, and we made it. But immediately after independence, 1960, we had euphoria, elections, multi-party, democracy. Suddenly things changed. December 1962, Olympio was shot dead in Togo. The beginning of a terrible period for Africa. The first assassination of a president. And by the way, I think we have assassinated about 16 of them. Say nothing of ministers, prime ministers. We went into that period, we fought, conflicts everywhere. And at the very peak, because I've been engaged in this, there were more than 32 countries in Africa that were in conflicts. Mozambique, Angola, Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi, name it. Nigeria went through also. That was a very dark period. This was the period of one party, and at that time, you could count on your just one hand the number of countries that had multi-party elections, namely Mauritius, Botswana, Senegal. The rest either rigged completely no elections or there were single-party elections. This was a most difficult period. From 1990, we move into a new phase. That new phase, reintroduction of elections and multi-party elections. This is a major step. So today, when we look at the whole continent, you can ask yourselves, apart from what has happened in North Africa, Libya and Libya and Tunisia and so on, you could say there is, as far as I know, only one country that had no multi-party elections or no elections, and that is Eritrea. The rest have had elections. There are elections in this continent, multi-party election, no longer single parties. That is a major achievement. I don't know what you think. Secondly, in terms of conflict, from 32, the numbers have drastically come down. There are now simmering conflicts. There are low-level conflicts. But the continent, at least Africa south of the Sahara, the whole continent, you can say we are in a new phase. Those conflicts are abating. They have gone down. You went through a difficult time yourselves. But you need to look back. And you say today, where are we? I'm sorry, Representative of Prime Minister, it took you 2 hours to come here. This is because of your success. Before, you could run through this town because there were no cars. But now, the place is congested because people, without stability, with economic growth, people are buying cars which we never thought that they would. So I'm just giving you these major milestones that we have made. So today, we are in a new era. Elections, multi-party elections are taking place in almost all the countries, as I said, apart from Eritrea that I know of. Libya also was in that. Have they been perfect? Far from it. Far from it. In a lot of cases, rigging, conflict, mismanagement, but parliaments are there. And whether or not we have people in the opposition and we have those in the government, it's there. Let's make use of where we are. So let me now say this. What lessons can we learn from those few men? There were no women then. There were, but they were not in that. What lessons can we learn about the future and the stabilization beyond 2016, stabilizing post-election conflicts in Uganda? Number one, for there were a few people, there were not even a dozen. So never underrate the power of your knowledge, of your commitment, of your passion, and of your vision. Even if there are two of you, but you are not two, you are more. Hold on to a vision for the future. That team sat down, did not look back and mourn, but they said and they look ahead. And they say, this is the future that we want for our continent. Can you do the same for Uganda, for East Africa, for the whole of Africa? It's you, it's me, it's us. Two, they took ownership of their problem. Let me repeat this. This is something I deeply feel. Now, somewhere I was in a meeting and on Africa, and one after another, people are speaking, one after another, an African standing up, complaining and mourning and angry and blaming. After 2 hours, I just got agitated. I got up. I said, I'm sorry. This is a worn-out record I have been hearing for the last 20, 30 years. I'm tired of it. We are not getting anywhere. The problem is looking at us, smiling. This is exactly what I want you to be. And I said, gentlemen, ladies, as Africans, I was speaking to them, let us take ownership of our problems. Let us take ownership of our problems. And I want even further. and I say, guard your problem jealously. Don't allow anybody to take over responsibility for your problem. The moment they do, you fold your hands. You fold your hands. And it will be done. You say it will be done. But it's never done properly. It is you who should be in the front line. It does not mean you don't welcome support. But it is you who is passionate, who is committed, who is driving it. That's you. Like those 6 or 8 Africans. They took ownership of the problem of the whole continent. Not just Uganda. The whole continent. You have even a smaller job. But I want you to expand it a little bit to East Africa. I want you to go beyond East Africa, Africa. Be committed to this continent. But you must have that vision. This is the second thing. Thirdly, they were forward-looking, not backward. I've often given a story. I know I'm going over time. Another 3, 4, 5 minutes, maybe. Always, when you are driving at night out in the rural areas, and as you are driving your car, and if somebody comes from behind you and put on full beam, the light from the reflector will blind you. And you cannot see your way ahead. You may even have to stop because you will have an accident. I use that metaphor of how we handle the past. If you focus completely, entirely on the past, you will be blinded. You cannot see the future. But if the guy at the back dims the light, then it strengthens your own light and you can see even better. So I'm not writing off the past. I'm saying do not get obsessed of what there, but use the past to inform and to light the road ahead of you so that you can attain your goal. I believe these 2 things, taking ownership of the problem, and number 2, seeing the past as both a friend and as an enemy. Whether you have been successful and you keep on talking of your success, I did this, I was this, the future is looking at you. So success can be an enemy of development. Failure can be an enemy of development. Try to hold them. These are friends you need to hold carefully. Focus on the future. This is what I'm after. Now for Uganda, yes, elections have taken place. May I suggest, number 1, I agree stability and peace is absolutely crucial. Hold on to it. Hang on to it. It does not mean you put under the carpet the problems. No. But let us find an alternative solution of solving problems rather than using force, using violence. Whenever I was engaged with rebel groups, South Sudanese, Mozambique, and anywhere, the first point, dialogue, I say, first of all, please get to the table. Let them get to the table. That's the first thing. When they get to the table, after they get to know one another, the first item on the agenda we always put on the table is, please, can you discuss ceasefire to save lives? So I would say this. For those of us, we are here on this world. We have given a very important responsibility. To believe, at least I believe, and I think you're right, that life is sacred. Life is so important. It doesn't matter who, young, educated, old, it is life. And it is our responsibility to protect lives. I would say to you, and I'm going to urge you, not one single soul should die because of elections. Amen. Not one. Before, during, or after. Can we find an alternative to bring the matter to the table? Let me say lastly, truth, honesty is important. Courage is important. Patience is important. Respect is even more important. If you want dialogue and you go and tell the other guy you are useless, you are this, you don't respect, I am sorry, you will not get anywhere. But show that you respect. But you state what you believe. But get your facts right. Don't just make a general statement, oh, things have gone wrong. No. May I say this also? Auditing yourself is not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. And I hope you are aware that the African leaders decided to establish the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, and I had the privilege of being the first eminent person to roll out the Africa Peer Review Mechanism. I peer reviewed Nigeria, not peer reviewed, but we did the auditing of Nigeria. I was leading the team, and also of Mozambique. But by the time I left, we had done 15 countries. Voluntary. Nobody was forced. You want to? Call us. But when you call us, you accept the conditions that we will meet anyone, we will look at any document, we will present the facts, not hearsay. And we will be transparent. We will share it with you, and we will have dialogue. We will bring the report, you will meet with your colleagues, and you discuss. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So I would say, you look at that report. You had a report here. Look at it. Consider how you can audit yourselves. In an open, friendly, you are not there accusing anyone. What you are doing is, how can we improve what we have so far achieved? And let me underline here, this country has achieved a lot, for heaven's sake. You have achieved a lot. Our economy in Kenya depends on you. And by the way, I think maybe 2% to 3% depends on you. It is you who have made it possible for us. So we have a deep interest. And we're joining you. We are not leaving you. By the way, we are not going to leave you. Even if you close the door, we'll pray for you at the entrance. We'll not leave you. Neither can you leave us. We are tied. We like it, we don't. We are tied together. So let us hang together. And in this continent, we are together. Let us play a role in this continent. The continent of peace and the continent that can contribute peace to the whole world. We have a mission. That mission is not only in this continent, but the whole world. We should have that vision. That we want to contribute for the human race. We are all one. We are all one people. I did my own DNA test to find out where I came from. I don't know whether you risk doing it because you may have all sorts of surprises, but I did mine. And they say I came from somewhere northern Kenya, southern Ethiopia, and then this report is a biologist. I don't know how true it is, but anyway, they said, but you have relations. It goes all the way to the Middle East, a bit of Jewish somewhere. It went on to Greece. The line went on to Portugal. And then what it even said is, your lineage is the only one that left this continent. So, I have relatives in Germany. I have relatives in India. I have relatives in Japan. I have relatives in America. And I say to myself, wow, we are one people, one great family of the human race. And that is what we want to see. Thank you.
Can I ask that if we decide to give an applause, we give a proper one? So can we do it again? Thank you very much, Ambassador Kiplagat, for that. There were some T-shirts circulating in this country. I think Arthur should help you get one. It was written on, at that time, we were 31 million Ugandans. So it was called 31 million Bafuruchi. I'm just one of them. And it meant that all of us are immigrants. Migrants or immigrants? Migrants, I think, in this country. Because we shouldn't claim territory and say, this is my territory, this is my portion of the territory. I don't want other people to come. I think the analogy just given us on your DNA speaks exactly to that. So thank you so much for your keynote presentation. I'm going to invite Justice James Ogola to, in a way, the presentation on the program is that he would be part of a panel, but a panel of one can be difficult. So I'm going to invite Justice James Ogola to, in 5 minutes, discuss the presentation of Ambassador Kiplagat, and then we'll open this to the audience. I'll be biased a little bit because there are a few people within the audience that have been alerted to make comments. I'll come to those first, and then all of us will have an opportunity to discuss the topic that we have today, looking at the presentation of the Prime Minister, the representative of the Prime Minister, Professor Kabwejere, and the keynote presentation, and of course the discussion of Justice James Ogola. Justice Ogola, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Ambassador Kiplagat's DNA came from all over. Mine came from somewhere around Egypt. It came floating down the Great Nile back here to Uganda. I've heard Ambassador Kiplagat speak at many, many fora. In Kenya, in Uganda, West Africa. He never lets anybody down. It's gripping stuff that he talks about. In Uganda, he described one coup where he was present here on our soil. And fortunately, there have been many such. One too many. Coups, rebellions, insurrections, assassinations, and even live hot wars here in Uganda. We desperately need to ask why. We need to assert no more. Enough is enough. And that's why we are here this morning to debate the issue of stability in governance beyond 2016. Ambassador Kiplagat has given us many plates of food for thought, and we'll spend a long time after this meeting, regurgitating what he told us. It's a great deal that he gave. Let me, in answering his presentation, put forward what I think are some of the most important issues for Uganda beyond 2016. And in doing so, I'll be adverting to many of the issues that he raised specifically. What do we need beyond 2016? I want to think about 3 pillars of society in answering that question. And those pillars are the people, the opposition, and the government. Each one of these should focus on 1 or 2 specific issues that will see us sail beyond 2016. For the people of Uganda, the one and big thing is peace. Peace not at any and all costs, but certainly peace through any and all possible efforts. The initiatives and the efforts of all of us, the women, the children, the youth, the governors, the governed, civil society, the elders, religious leaders, all have a part to play in putting forward efforts to attain peace. For the opposition, the one big thing that they have been talking about is justice. Justice through the usual, normal, traditional channels of the law and the Constitution, such as the one that has now started in the Supreme Court concerning the presidential election petition. And all the others, smaller than those, which are in all the courts in Uganda concerning the electoral petitions of parliamentary and local government candidates. There's a price for all this. But before I get to the price, there's been an option also presented by one branch of the opposition towards justice. It's a new and fresh option, never tried in this country before, and that's the option of an independent electoral audit. It's now on the table for national conversation. We would do well to pause a little and audit that proposal to the merits and the demerits of that proposal. What's the price for this justice that's yearned by the opposition? In my view, it takes patience, tolerance, and a lot of national effort by all, so that the opposition, in looking for justice, follows the set rules. It has maturity. And as I said before, patience and tolerance. But above all, to recognize and to appreciate that the nation is above all else. How about for the government? For the government, the one thing that's important is the stability of the country. Only stability and serenity in the country can enable the government, any government, to govern, to focus, and to implement its policies. For the government, the price of stability is, among others, magnanimity, grace, wisdom, statesmanship. The kind that Abraham Lincoln showed in the US after he won a grueling civil war in that country many years ago. The kind that Nelson Madiba Mandela showed in forging and designing the rainbow rainbow nation of South Africa. That's the price that it would take to have that stability that's so sorely needed for government, any government. So we have here a trinity of interests, embracing the three pillars of any democratic society: the people, the government, and the opposition. The national effort towards these three fundamental elements of peace, justice, and stability will be long and will be arduous. We can think of them in three terms: the short term, indeed sometimes the immediate term in Uganda, because there's a lot of smoke, a lot of smoldering smoke that could erupt into some fire. So there could be immediate term considerations. Second would be the medium term, which could focus on reforms, fundamental reforms with the electoral processes and systems. Some could even spill into the constitutional arena, the governance structures, and so on and so forth. But all of these, in my view, should be engaged in to lay the foundation, the transition to the future of the Uganda that we need and desire. The third one is the long term. And in my view, the long term could focus on national reconciliation, truth-telling, so on and so forth, leading to sustainable, durable development and sustainable prosperity. Let me touch very quickly on what we have done and what do I mean by we. There are two organizations that I belong to. I'm chair of the Elders Forum of Uganda, and by association, a member of the Interreligious Council of Uganda. These two have started some tentative efforts, and I'll describe them in a little while. But who are these, anyhow? In brief, the IRCU, Interreligious Council, is the conscience of the nation. The Elders Forum are the trustees, the custodians of the nation's legacy, because they are a reservoir of wisdom and experience in this country. So what have we done? The two groups, we did engage before, during, and now after the elections, did engage fully in a number of initiatives. It suffices to say just two. One of them was the presidential debate. To us, the presidential debate was not an effort at letting the people know who to choose from the 8 candidates. That was important. Our real and fundamental motive was to establish a new electoral and political culture, where those competing for high elective office would do so with dignity, decency, and decorum, would debate the real issues before the country, as against what we normally have had, the usual campaign drama and hype of empty promise and pledges and ululating at the rallies. A rally which preaches to the converted. Because if it's a yellow rally and you wear blue, you are in trouble to go to the yellow rally, and vice versa. At the rallies, it's like they engage in abuse, finger pointing, sometimes violence. At the debate, it's totally different thing. We engage in fundamental issues. We give the opportunity to the candidates to unveil their mission and their vision and let us know who is the best candidate among them all. And we do so with the civility, with the respect, with the tolerance for the competing creeds across the political divide. And so we wanted to plant this new political culture. And I'm happy to say it's already catching on. Yesterday I was told that there have been guild presidency elections in Makerere or some place like that, and they already started on presidential, the guild debates. That is the way, for the debate is the thing. It's time, and I'll make myself scarce from this podium, but allow me just to say one thing. TEFU, the Elders Forum, has a motto, and so does IRCU, the Interreligious Council of Uganda. The motto for the IRCU is Religions for Peace. The motto for the Elders Forum of Uganda is Bending Spears and Building Bridges for Peace. We have started to do something to that effect. As I said before, the debate was won, but now we have started some very tentative steps towards a dialogue in this country. Thank you very much.
That's a breach of agreement. We agreed that if you're going to give a cheer, we're going to give a proper one. So can we do it again for Justice James Ogola? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 63rd State of the Nation discussion platform, and the discussion this morning is Beyond 2016, Stabilizing Post-Election Governance in Uganda. We have heard from Professor Tassis Kabwejere, who's representing the Prime Minister. We've heard from Ambassador Bethwel Kiplagat, and we've just heard from Justice James Ogola. We have an audience that's joining us on NTV, on the live transmission, and I want to remind all of us here that let's limit our movement so that we're not interrupting the cameras and having those pictures moving back and forth. It doesn't look well for the people watching us following this discussion. We encourage them to contribute to this debate. There are platforms on which they can contribute. Of course, the NTV Facebook page and Twitter page, Twitter handle are open. They can participate in this discussion. Hopefully we can pick up some of those comments later. But also for those of us who are here, the tradition is we take this discussion beyond what we're having in this room. I'm going to open this discussion up to the audience to participate. But like I said, we'll have to point out a few people to ask them to make specific contributions. The understanding is that you will restrict your comments in a democratic way to allow all of us in this room to be able to have our say. So if you spend 3 minutes making your individual contribution, you're denying the rest of us an opportunity to make a contribution. So can I have some people with the microphones, because I don't want people to come to the podium. If I can have some people come, that inconvenience the TV people will have to deal with, to bear with, it comes with the territory. I need the microphone brought to the Honorable Miriam Matembe. Yes, because the panel is very gender insensitive. So let me start from the Honorable Matembe, and then I'll move around to the other members. If you could make a brief contribution in about a minute or two on where we are about beyond 2016?
Well, the microphone came here without my expectations. I was wondering as to whether today I should speak, because what I would have spoken, the ambassador has said. And then the justice has added on. So they have said it all like they were saying my mind. So what do I want to add on? I want to add on that after elections, all of us, even losers, should feel that we have won. Professor representing the Prime Minister, I have also ever lost elections. In fact, I was rigid, the truth is that. But I accepted, and I'm still all right, and I'm okay. So, these elections, do we feel that all of us won? So what am I saying? We should, all of us, the opposition and the government, accept that there is something wrong here. We should not have things under the table and say, well, we people have won, we have guns, we have all this, we shall manage you people. I mean, that cannot happen. So I want all of us to recognize and accept that there is a problem which all of us must attend to. Number two, the language. The language of both the opposition, which is saying, well, for me I looked at it like the thing is between like two forces. I will manage you, and the other one is, I will defy you. Ambassador, that is the situation that is here. People should not deceive you. We are covering, there is underground here. We don't know what will come out. And then the whole idea of improper use of institutions, which are supposed to help our people. I'm glad I'm seated near this one. I don't know whether he knows how angry people are with the police. This is my brother here, my brother Kasinje. And your name means Obsinje, my friend. So, do they know how angry people are? Ambassador, people are angry, people are angry. And people are expecting a solution other than the results of the elections. And so for me, I'll stop here. Because everything else they said, I was only adding on that. And I want to appeal to everybody, whether in opposition, whether in government, people in government, please stop pride. Uganda belongs to all of us. And we women suffer most when instability and violence is there. Please listen to the mothers in this land and stop pride and come down and let us talk. I finish there because I'm very passionate about it.
Thank you very much. I am looking around where to go next. I have Hassan Kasinje on the lineup to speak to us, but I'll come to you in a moment. Let me first go to Richard Tudwong. Richard Tudwong is just here. Is seated next here to Matembe.
Thank you, and I think we are discussing this topic at the right time, and I need to thank the panelists for the insight of what they've given us. I just have 2 or 3 things to say. That one, what Justice Ogola said, that the trinity of interest cannot blind us from the past. The debate now here in Uganda is history versus the future. We are at a very critical point in history that the people of Uganda are tired of listening to history. They need hope. They need to see the future, and the leaders should talk about the future more than the past. We've seen in the past election that the debates were history versus the future, yes, state versus non-state actors, the people versus the leaders. The interests of the people were not well catered for by some of the participants in this election. And these issues are well defined by the panelists: peace, stability, opportunities to prosper by all. The past cannot blind us, like you said, and they shouldn't blind us. We need to create opportunity at this very point in time that the young people of Uganda should see hope through their leaders. 70% of the voters in Uganda are young people. And these young people have listened to the stories of the past, the struggles of the past, the moments of the revolutions. At this particular point, the young people would like to see opportunities that leaders would like to create for them to prosper in their country. And that is why Honorable Miriam Matembe is saying Ugandans are really bitter. Yes, humility, respect, patience, tolerance can help us navigate through this very critical moment. I'm indeed sorry to hear that people think those in government, and more so in my party, might pretend or might appear to be a little more arrogant. I think we shall do that internally to make sure our people don't appear arrogant. Nothing is more crucial than being honest about a situation. We need to own our mistake if we've made mistakes. We need to persuade Ugandans that we are better than those we compete with. And persuasion comes with the tolerance, persuasion comes with the facts, persuasion comes with the acceptance of mistakes. We are still going through elections. The elections were segmented into many areas: presidential, parliamentary, and local government. We finished the presidential elections with their issues. We are about to finish parliamentary election today, I think, by voting of the representatives of workers, members of parliament. We're still going through with the local government elections, hopefully by concluding through the LC1 elections. But I think the most crucial thing that I picked in all these elections are the different centers of point of entry in the debate. Even if Justice Ogola says the debate is the thing, but the participants in the debate are speaking different things. One, others are talking transition, and others are talking steady progress. So the people are fixed in the middle. Should I talk transition? Should I talk steady progress? And we transit from where to where. And a political democratic transition is not like a switch on a wall. It's gradual. And it has to be accepted by everybody to understand. And indeed, within the party and within the government that I serve, internally I see there is a transition already taking place. And this transition will, of course, tantamount to the final shift of leadership from our chairman and our leader to another person. But gradually, internally in the party, we are already implementing a transition. When you see young people taking up responsibilities in various offices, our concern as Ugandans is that these young people, do they understand what they're doing? Are they better than the people they are replacing? Are they honest to Ugandans? Are they dedicated to the issues of Ugandans? Are they diligent? Won't they take us back to where we were? Do they know where we are going? Do they know our interests? Are they working with others the way they should work with others? Because that can give us a peep to the future of the young people that they cry for.
Thank you.
Finally, next time, Elders Forum, we pray that when presidential candidates go for presidential debate, say now in 2021, we feel that many of them should be updated on the status of the country so that people don't go to debate on speculations. They should go to debate with the facts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Internal reflection within the different players is something that Richard has brought up. And if the NRM is doing that, I think that's a good thing, that it's doing internal reflection and internal audit. Because I think everybody needs to do their own internal audit before they come on the table. And I think the other thing that Richard Todwong talks about is people to be updated on the country. When citizens are talking about their country, they live in the country. So the statistics might differ from their lives and they may talk from their experiences, which may not be reflected in the statistics. And there's need for accommodation of some of those different interpretations of where the country is at any particular time. Can I prompt another person? Let me prompt Sheila Kawamara. She represented Uganda at the East African Legislative Assembly and has been an eminent person, especially in the processes that have been going on. So let me first hear from her and then we'll be able to move on to a few other people. If you have a burning issue you want to contribute, please notify me where you are and I will come to you. But I will come to one more person before I open up. I've seen you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Charles. Actually, I wasn't expecting you to call me at this material time. But still, I'm happy to contribute. And I had particularly a question. I hope, Justice Ogola, you can put some light on it. We respect you and congratulations on the big debate. We really enjoyed the debate. My concern is about the justice system. You said the opposition should follow the normal legal mechanisms or justice to seek redress. Do you sincerely believe that we have those normal mechanisms in our country where one of the candidates is under house arrest since the elections? The police is deployed everywhere. Opposition people are arrested and we are aware. And the declaration forms are destroyed. We are seeing the lawyers' offices being broken into, allegedly by the police. I hope Hassan Kasinje can clarify on that. Really, do we have a normal system where we should expect redress? Because when we go for elections as voters, we go there genuinely to cast a vote and have a decision in how we are led, how we are governed. So I would like Justice Ogola to put some light on the justice without any due prejudice to what is going on in the court.
Thank you. We will have responses to specific questions. And if you have a specific question that you'd like someone to answer, please raise it. And that includes people in the audience. If Honorable Matembe or Richard Oduong or someone else says something you think they should answer to, you should ask them, and we'll have that opportunity in the next few minutes. Let me bring the microphone to Hassan Kasinje to speak to us. Part of the congratulations, Afand, as you speak to us is we have some kind of mini barracks behind us at the airstrip. We have another one at the Constitution Square. We have another one down at the former Kiseka Market, at Mengo, and people are wondering where do institutions fit into this discussion?
Thank you.
Particularly yours.
Thank you, Charles, and thanks to the panelists. As we discuss Uganda beyond 2016 and its stability in governance, it's my considered opinion, I may speak more of a Ugandan than a police officer, that first of all we look at the tenets of democracy. We yearn for democracy, and we need to listen to the voices of the people. We cannot talk about democracy and at the same time we deny what democracy is all about. And for me, it is important that what comes out and what we say is going to shape this country beyond 2016. Because if we agree that the path to democracy is through multi-party elections, and we agree to take to participate in them, and then after that we castigate the exercise of what we did, I don't think that is correct. There may be problems. We need to look at issues that came out, but I think as Uganda we charted a very conscious and right way to go. Number two, for me, sustainable development and looking at 2016 and beyond is not about the vanquished and winner takes it all. It's about respect for each other. Of course, if you go into this kind of exercise, there is one who is going to win, there is one who is going to lose. The most important thing now is how do we balance that? I see a lot of people talking about things that stir a lot of resentment, that bring a lot of anger, especially to the young people out there. You hear things like, if they won, why didn't they celebrate? You know? And that is very, it's like spread out and that kind of thing. If somebody is conscious of, if I celebrate and I know that there is this potent, kind of anger and whatever, is it going to build our country or not? I think we should be looking at things, not steering kind of resentment and anger to anger people more. Dialogue, as you have said, for me is more important than might. My role model is Mahatma Gandhi. And I think what he fought for is not in vain. We can look at what he fought for and we can achieve it. It's not about that, defiance or, if this is not done, then this is going to happen. And you hear people in the media, everywhere, talking about, people will come up, 1 million march, there's going to be 1 million march and this kind of thing. And when it happens, they may not stop it. They may not stop it. You may be happy that we are going to have 1 million march, but you may not stop the consequences of that. So we better now start looking at what could have been wrong and we solve it properly than steering, and making people more conscious, more anxious. The other one, Charles, I'm soon finishing. We should look at institutions, and I'm glad Honorable Matembe looked at it. I am saying through social media, of course social media has just come and we are not managing it very well. We are looking at social media, isolating people in institutions, demonizing them, castigating them, of course depending on which divide you are in. This is not going to help me as Kasinje, who is in the police. I'm not a small person in the police. But should you want to contribute of a subject, people are being trained, it is abuse, it is, I don't know what people are thinking about. And let me tell you, we are human beings. If we want to discuss on what the role of the police in this, in 2016 and beyond, Dr. Abinomuchisha, can we bring that on the table and we discuss it and we chart a way forward? But bringing out people, demonizing them, I don't think that one is also helpful. Lastly, I'm making one. The youth are a very, very important factor in the 2016 and beyond. What we are saying to them will make Uganda achieve what we want to achieve. You've talked about the barracks and you said there is barracks in Kororo and
at Constitution Square, Kiseka Market,
at Constitution Square,
at Bessage's house, there's another one, and
for the time being, let me say this. That because we want to achieve this stability of what we are talking about 2016 and beyond, of what is being said, what is being instigated, I think the police and other institutions of security must come out and be counted out there that we need a stable Uganda. Because most of us may not be private to what we are private to. That people are actually mobilizing to have Uganda shattered in a moment. We have seen, Charles, this in some countries after elections. And for us, we are saying, no, we shouldn't be there.
Okay. Thank you.
I may leave it at that.
Thank you. I thought that was important that it comes out because Ambassador Kiplagat might have to speak to that on what happens post. Let me start with the gentleman there. And yes, in the middle there. No, just in the middle there. Yes. Please keep your contribution very brief. We are not doing very well with time. I also need to remind you that you have on your tables evaluation forms of stone. Please fill them in as we move towards the end of this discussion. Yes, sir. If you could tell us your name, these others I introduced because I knew the name. So if you could tell us your name and then make your contribution, very brief.
Mwesugo Christopher, my name's. I'm glad to be here, and I want to qualify myself to speak on Uganda's motto, which is for God and my country, of which actually I have not seen how God comes in, yet he is the first. So I would like to appeal to the conscience of everybody here to know that we have God and that God is love. And since we are seeing a lot of bitterness and anger, which is the direct opposite of what God's character is, I think what we are handling here is more than what we can see, but it even goes into the spiritual realms, and which may affect very many. When we talk about love, that means we have forgiven and we have reconciled with everybody. So without love, the country will go into bitterness, anger, burning of everything, and chaos, which actually goes into genocide. So can we preach love so that everybody will know the importance of love and forgiving one another?
Thank you.
And on that, I want to give another principle in the Bible which says, do to others what you'd like them do to you.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
if you feel what you are doing, you would not like another person to do it to you, don't do it.
Thank you. Justice Ogola has to leave, and he wanted to respond to the question that Sheila asked. So can I have Justice Ogola respond to that question, and then we'll be able to continue with our discussion. Can we have the microphone go to Justice Ogola? Where's the microphone? Okay.
Sheila raised the question, can the opposition in the circumstances now prevailing adhere to legal means of recourse? Well, first of all, that's not what I said. But now that you asked it, yes, I will say that that is what it should be. First, we are talking about stability beyond 2016. How do we bring stability? That's the topic of this discussion this morning. If we're talking about stability, don't expect me to preach revolution. Revolution cannot bring stability. We are talking about wise choices, fundamental choices. And when I was raising that issue, I actually said the price. What is the price? The price could be revolution, particularly so, as our friend reminded us, 70+% of the electorate are younger people, born in 1980s, 90s. They have no feel for what we, the elders in this country, had in the 1960s, 70s, 80s. That's where revolution takes people. Amin started it, others continued it, and by the time change came, this country had ground to ashes. I, as an elder who lived through that, cannot, when looking for stability, preach anything but the proper course. It is costly, and that's why I call it a price. But the alternative is anarchy. And I cannot preach that, either as an elder or as a judge. I cannot preach extra legal, extra judicial means of recourse. I have to say that the price, unfortunately for you younger people, is to take the known path, the legal path. Because once upon a time, this country came together, and Honorable Kabwejere here will testify to that. I believe even Honorable Matembe. We came in 1994, 23, Constituent Assembly. We sat as a nation around a table and drafted a constitution. And we said, that is the rule for this country. That's how we go about it. Now, if you feel that that rule is being broken, is being trodden upon, then there are other means. Some of them are the elections. And fortunately, the elections have turned out to be why we are here. They are aggrieved parties. They are winners. They are losers, both in courts, because we are now in the court to audit that, whether they are really winners and losers or not. So, in short, there's a price to everything. And for the aggrieved, for the time being, Constitution, the legal mechanisms are the only things we have to go by. Let me add a footnote to all that, however. The opposition, FDC, has said that they will go, first of all, they put out a press conference, a press statement. And in that one, they say they're not going to go violent way of doing things. That's very encouraging. Secondly, they say they will go the legal way, including civil, you call it disobedience, asking people to stay at home, asking people to do this or the other. They say that they will do so because that is legal, that's constitutional. So even they, like I, are preaching legal recourse. If we go beyond that, then it's extra legal, it's extra judicial, and that will be preaching revolution.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I have to leave now. We have a funeral service of a good friend we are going to attend now. So I'll have to leave you. Thank you so much for having me, Acode. I'll come to the 64th one as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Justice Ogola. I have a few questions that came in from the Reverend Canon John Awodi. One is for the guest of honor, Professor Tharsis Kabwejire, and he says, when you're speaking to us, you intimated about the Django rule or law, and you seemed to intimate that cheating seems to be justified. Can this build a stable Uganda beyond 2016? This is a question to Ambassador Kiplagat. One person said, they say experience is the best teacher, but I hasten to add that it is the best teacher for a willing student. That's according to Archbishop Janan Luwum. How can we use our past, history, and experience to inform us to map a better Uganda? And then there's another question to the, Hassan Kasinja has stepped out, but I'll still read it. When he comes back, I'll read it again. What the police are doing, they justify as preventive measures. Why can't the police use the same approach to prevent corruption, violence that seems rampant in our society? When Kasinja comes back, I'll read it again and he'll answer. Let me pick a few more hands and then we will. We have only about 10 minutes, and in those 10 minutes, I intend to have Ambassador Kiplagat respond, and there's a question that's been put to, to Professor Kabwejire. He'll have also to answer. So can I have Professor Mushemeza here? I think his hand has been up for some time. Yes, I'll come to you in a minute.
Thank you very much. I will make 2 quick points. In my view, I think we made a mistake as a country to take electoral reforms very lightly. So if one of the things we must do in the medium term is to revisit this question in order to strengthen our institutions. My second point is that if we are to have meaningful reconciliation, we must be truthful and transparent in our activities. When I was managing NRM primaries, and my period was during by-elections, and if you asked me declaration of results forms, it would not take me 2 minutes to produce those forms. The other example I want to give why we should be truthful and transparent. There is no way a political party or a candidate can assess himself or herself during tallying of results without having a tally center. So I find it very strange when some people say a candidate to a political party cannot have a tarry center. So if we are to have meaningful reconciliation, we have very truthful and we have to be transparent in whatever we do.
Thank you very much. I think that's critical. Let me have the hand here, the gentleman here. His hand has been up. I have just seen your hand. So I'll come here, pick the gentleman here, and pick... yes, sir. I'll come to you in a moment. No, starting here.
All protocols. I'm Daniel Owe. I come from Abim. My point is, according to what we have all been talking here, we said the youth makes the greatest population of 80%, and we are entitled to vote. We are given that authority to vote. But what beats my understanding is, we voted as the youth. We came in overwhelming number, and we all voted. But how comes that at the end of the day, not all the votes are tallied? And at the end of the day, we are here confused, and all the minds of the youth in the country has been corrupted. Please, now for us to come on a platform, when you give a person a right, give the person fully the right to vote and the vote to be tallied. Then secondly, the issue of the biometric voters verification machine. The machine is incomplete. For the next time if we are using the machine again, I beg that for the Electoral Commission should bring the machine that will tally the votes directly so that no one is crying, no one is cheating. Because sometimes even in the villages where I come from in Abim, the machines failed and people were just doing things manually. Therefore, I pray that if we are to reconcile, these things must be set, and the Electoral Commission must be independent without anybody going around threatening and pushing a lot of force to make the work goes on their favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I have Bamwine?
Thank you so much. My name is Bamwine, resident district commission in Tungamo. And I want to thank the elders for their presentation. Quick one to Ambassador. You mentioned that multi-party democracy in Africa by 1960s was a good light after liberation. But I wanted to pose a question. Is development and stability synonymous to multipartyism, multi-party democracy? If it is true, how come that most African states who have had multi-party democracy have always faced these upheavals and they are not stable? And the Far East countries who don't have this multi-party democracy are stable and steadily developing. To Mzee, Professor Kabwejire, you ended with a remark which says that cheating may be there, but you have to learn how to live with it. And I wanted also to pose a question. What about in an environment where there is no cheating? What kind of living do you propose? If cheating can be good to live with it, and then we move on. What about when there is no cheating? Lastly,
if you could stop it there, because I need to have someone else contribute. We have about 5 minutes to get out of here. There's a question from Patrick Tumwine to Professor Kabwejire. He says, those cheated should forget and move on. For how long should this continue? There can never be peace without justice. Impunity must not be tolerated. It must end. Then we talk peace. Someone else from Sadat Zaga Ziwa says, politicians need to have meaningful integration of politics and development. Statements like isolating musicians who sang to Bonganawe is a post-violence instigator at this period. Let's think democracy and peace. Can I have another hand? There's a gentleman there in a white shirt, yes. Next to Honorable Jova. Yes, there, right behind you. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Charles. I'm Geoffrey Kasumba, representing the NRM in the Interparty Youth Platform. Charles, we have heard about the post-election stability and conferences going on around. And we have also seen our colleagues joining others like those who went to the embassy, attacking the embassy, and others. But we should live with reality. Justice Ogola formed the Elders Forum, and I was privileged to see all the presidential candidates on the same podium for the first time in the history of this country. But now, Tadong said we are talking about the past, and then we are living in the future. But I would like to bring this to your attention that for the very first time, the youth leaders of this country are going to start a reconciliation process with these leaders, all of them. Starting with next week, we are organizing a move as NRM youth leaders and FDC, PPP, all of them. We want to first go, we meet Besije, we tell him what we feel as youth of this country. You cannot stand and say, you're boycotting musicians. You're boycotting talent. That is boycotting talent. We are living in a society where all the youth are unemployed. So when you boycott musicians, you're boycotting talent. Number two, after meeting Besije at his place, we will go to Mbabazi. We tell Mbabazi, tell us your petition. What is the agenda of the youth 2021? How will we live? Then also we will go to Museveni with the FDC boys and all the UPC leaders. They tell also Museveni their views. After that, we also go to Biraro and they also tell us what, because when people talk about violence, it's not the elders that suffer most. It's us, the youth, and people are using the youth mostly. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, the gentleman there and the gentleman. What's happening to the ladies of this? Yes, I'll come to you in a minute. So can you use 1 minute, between you, 1 minute, and then the other 30 seconds will be used by the lady in the back.
Thank you very much, Charles. By the names of Sule Ale, I wouldn't love to say an NRM, but an independent from Maki in the division. I have a call. That is, if I look at Todong in the house, one, we always hold public figures accountable to what they say. But as Ugandans and young people in the nation, have you ever sat back and asked yourself, are you accountable to what you do or say to the public? Mr. Todong, allow me ask this. You're talking of steady progress and looking at 34 million people in the country. The steady progress you're talking of is envisaged amongst your families, 2-3 people. Where do you leave the rest of the population? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's have the gentleman here. Yes, I have seen two ladies, so I'll come to you. Can you kindly keep very brief so that...
Thanks very much. Penny and Rende are my names, and my key concern, I'm from Uganda Youth Network. My key concern, we're going to Mr. Hassan Kasinje, and my question was, how is police going to work together with the youth to ensure that there is stability in the post-election governance? Because having barracks around the streets, having barracks in the cities, having barracks where the young people are able to earn income every day is not a solution. We are tired and disappointed by so many challenges that are happening in the community. Because if we are strongly living in high levels of poverty, unemployment rates, and every day want to wake up in the morning, go to earn a living, and on our doors we are finding police, on the streets we are finding police, what are we going to do? The solution is not bring all the best machine guns on the streets. The solution is dialogue. Let police come and we dialogue together with young people, and we see how can we collectively work together, not be used as instruments of violence after elections, but instruments of peace and active participation in the 2016-21 election.
Thank you very much.
Governance. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Can I have the lady here and the lady there? We'll close it from the audience after that, and then we'll bring the microphone back here.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Nagi Edith. I would like to, my concern goes to the elders who presented today. Everyone is concerned about stability in this country. But my question is, do you think about the people who are suffering out there? Family men are being arrested. Talk about Rukunjiri district where I come from. When people decide to show their loyalty to their party, people are being arrested, shops are closed. So what stable Uganda are you talking about if that is still affecting very many places in our country?
Thank you. Let's have the last contribution from the audience. There is a lady there. Sorry, if you put up your hand now, we have closed it. We can't ask for an extension. Upright.
Thank you, Charles. My question is to Todwang, Richard Todwang, the issue of language and respect. When the president calls people rats, and none of us here are criminalizing it, but we are criminalizing people who are telling people to not to attend musicians who supported NRM, then I'm a bit disappointed. When the president states that opposition will be wiped out in the next 5 years, does the party really have commitment to dialogue or to respect multi-party democracy in this country? And I would also advise him that since they are going to Chankwanzi for the retreat, they should critically reflect on the issue of language and respect. We are really planting bad seed among the youth and our children. My daughter had to ask me, Mommy, you live in Kampala. Are you a rat? When the president said rats are in Kampala. The second question is to the people who are advocating for the dialogue. It's a good thing, but I see everybody running to Dr. Besigye. Are you willing to talk? Are you willing to talk? I don't see many groups going to the president asking him whether he's willing to talk to the opposition. Is it because that Besigye is in a vulnerable position, he's under duress, that they want to see him succumb to the pressure and say, I'm willing to talk? Why don't these groups go and start with the president? He has the power, he has the tools, and to ask him, is he willing, is he committed to talking to the opposition?
Thank you. Thank you very much. There is another question from Dennis, Dennis Kiprotich to Ambassador Kiplagat, and says, what if the problem, you said we should take possession of our problem first. We should not allow someone else to carry it. Says, what if the problem hurts so much that you feel like you cannot deal with it alone? What do you do? And we bring the microphone back to the table here. We have Professor Kabwejere. If you could respond to the issues that came to you in exactly 1 minute, then I will have Ambassador Kiplagat respond to the issues that came to him in 2 minutes, and then we'll end this discussion. You have a microphone on the table there.
Yeah, let me stand up. It's easier to broadcast when you are up. First of all, my background, I'm a sociologist. And if you look at society as something that grows, builds institutions, grows, accumulates knowledge, grows, people grow, and help the younger ones to grow, then you can be a little sober when you are looking at how society is at a given point in time. My remarks, of course, you can't conclude a discussion of this nature with the hours we have. But certainly, I'm looking at Uganda, which has made progress. Now, is that progress enough? Go to any society where you find a good enough progress. You go and live there. I will not join you. I'm here and I have listened to the Kiplagat. There are steps we are making. And that's why I want the youth to know that you are at this point in time. By the time you are, for example, my age, there will be other people saying what a nuisance you are. So if you think that your knowledge now is adequate for the future, check. Because I have known this man here. I lived in Kenya 73, 79. If you look at him now and think what he's saying has just walked with it from the street, no, he's been around, and that's why he's able to say certain things. Like he made a statement.
Professor, if you could indulge me a little, we got to lose our live transmission now, but the questions that were asked will be answered, will be responded to for the audience that is here. So let me thank very much all the people who joined us via the live transmission on NTV. It's been the 63rd State of the Nation discussion platform brought to you by Advocates Coalition on Development and Environment, the Uganda Youth Network, and the National NGO Forum. Just as we end this, to congratulate, just as before we lose, congratulate Acode. It's been winning a number of awards. I'm saying Best Campaign Advocacy Award has been winning for the last about 4 years globally. There is a think tank that's been assessing think tanks across the world. So congratulations to you, Arthur, and your team. And thank you very much for all of those who joined us. And thank you very much to the NTV team for delivering this discussion to the audience outside of here. Professor, you can go ahead.
Thank you. One